It's somewhat of a ridiculous kind of argument. Well, we have Mississippi oppression in Mississippi, and you got Alabama oppression in Alabama. You got New York oppression in New York. And none of them are very good. They're all bad. And so what we have to do is figure out a way to put this puzzle together so that we can fight. But we got to be clear. As we become clear on the individual struggles and the individual approaches. Now, one of the things I'm here to talk about is the Scott sisters. The Scott sisters are two women, still relatively young black women. One's 38 and one's 36. But they've been in prison for 16 years. They've been in prison on both of them received double life sentences. They got double life sentences for allegedly participating in a scheme to rob two men who, first of all, the Scott County and the state of Mississippi didn't really give a damn about the men anyway. These were two black guys, but they were allegedly robbed and participating in a scheme to rob them of $11, right? And these two women have been in prison, even though they did not, in our opinion, participate in the scheme at all, and they were only included in the scenario of the scheme because of their daddy's refusal to cooperate with the county sheriff and his ability to get kickbacks. He's trying to get kickbacks on liquor sales. Those of you who have been in the South and certainly in Mississippi know that at one point when blacks ran any kind of establishment and they sold liquor, they had to pay the sheriff in order to sell the liquor. You know that. That's known, right? And so what happened is that they were mad at the daddy and they included the Scott sisters in the scenario. But in any event, the three young men who they say actually committed the so-called robbery actually only got 8 years, and they've only done 2 years, right? Each one of them only did 2 years. The three young men initially said the Scott sisters were not involved. These were young men 14, 17, and 18 years old. And they said the Scott sisters were not involved. But the sheriff told them in no uncertain terms, and see, here we begin to talk about the prison industrial complex. He said in no uncertain terms, we will put you in prison and turn you into females. That's what he said. If you do not include the Scott sisters in your description of what occurred out there that day. And so what they did is they put the Scott sisters in the description so that they could include them in it and get them prosecuted and get them sent away for 2 life terms. At the same time, the young men wound up with 8 years and had to do 2 years. So these women have been in jail for 16 years. Jamie Scott has lost the utility of her kidneys. Her kidneys are no good. So she's on dialysis in a prison where the dialysis machine breaks down on a regular basis, right? She is in a situation where she is being denied her own doctor to come in and take a look at her, and she's been denied medical release. She needs a kidney transplant. And so what we're doing right now in Mississippi, we've raised the cry that she should be freed. And everybody in here from Mississippi that you talk to is part of the coalition in order to get these Scott sisters out of prison. And so we want you to be part of the coalition to get the Scott sisters out of prison. This is a kind of an issue, a kind of a target issue, we believe, that can help identify and expose all these human rights violations that we talk about here today. Sometimes you need a target issue. You know what I mean? You know how Rosa Scott was a target issue? You know how Emmett Till was a target issue? Well, the Scott sisters are a target issue. So what we want to do is to expose the Scott sisters' trauma, drama, and the things that's happened to them, and we want to demand that they be released. And so that's one of the proposals I'm putting on the floor, is that we demand that the governor of the state of Mississippi issue a pardon to let the Scott sisters go immediately and free and completely. That's what we need. That's what we need. And this is something which I think we can achieve. This is something that we've got to achieve because they don't need to be in prison. We've talked about political prisoners and prisoners of war. The problem is that many of our young people don't understand that and don't understand that concept. there's a big gap in the learning process between where our brother Sekou Odinga is and Assata Shakur, the exiles, and where our young people are. Our young people understand the Scott system, right? Once it's explained. So we need to use this as a link to make them understand again about the political incarceration of our people, right? And so this is what I'm asking that we participate in here today, and I think it's in the spirit of what SHROC and what the Southern Human Rights Organizers Network is all about. What you're all about. One of the things is when we come in here, when you're talking to people who have had years of experience in working to develop human rights in their community. And I want to commend all of you for it, and I want to commend, again, Zerubbabel and all of the others who helped put the program together for doing it. Give yourselves a round of applause. But that's the simple message. So I'm not going to stay up here and make the simple message more complicated. I'm just going to say that what we need, all we need is the same thing we needed when we were talking to Malcolm years ago. Yeah. The same thing we needed when we were talking to folks before Malcolm and after Malcolm is what we need is a revolution. This is what we need. It's a simple solution, right? But it requires hard work. It requires a lot of on-the-ground work. It requires a lot of interrelationship with our people. It requires action outside of the government process. It requires lobbying in the government process. It requires us to try to take over little pieces of the government process whenever we can take over little pieces of the government process. And it requires a clear thinking. Not to get all out of control, but all of, sometimes we can't be in this for individual reasons, right? If you're in this for individual reasons, you might think that if you win a little office, then you're really something, right? You're going to really accomplish something, right? I figured that, my main participation in the struggle started long before we won the office. But the office was a victory for the people. The office was presented in our campaign as a people's campaign. It was adopted, and I'll say this as I end. We got a lot of work to do when we come into office like that. Because not only is it true that the powers that be, regardless of what color they look like, right, that they don't understand it, that they will fight against it, but at the same time, a lot of our people have to get used of the process of participating in decision making. A lot of us sit around and look at me and I say, we the people don't decide. And they look at me and say, hell, who did we put you in office for? So we got to tell them, look, I need your help, right? We got to make them think, we got to make them feel on a regular basis that they're part of the process. So let's do it. We can get it done. Thank you very much, and free the land.
Set the captives free. That's right. And the last but not least,